Taming supply chain complexity. Joining us today to speak about that, Alex Brown, Vice President, Supply Chain, Xilinx. Alex, welcome.
Thank you.
Alex, I want to turn to your organization there at or within Xilinx and talk about the top supply chain objectives and goals there. What would you say they are? Walk us through that.
Well, I mean, it's pretty simple. It's like a lot of companies. It's delivery. So we have some service metrics on lead times and inventory. And one of the big things and one of the reasons we bought Kinaxis as well, is not just those two, but excess and obsolescence for inventory, because of some of the challenges that we have with performance binning, which is how products yield to various performance levels versus demand. So those three metrics are the key for us.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about coordination and control of the supply chain that you've got there.
Yeah.
And just walk us through how you manage that at Xilinx.
Well, I just tell everyone what to do. That's what happens. No, we have really kind of tight control, kind of by design. Tight control as in tight processes with people have ability to change the processes, but tight control around the processes. So we have teams located in the U.S. and in Asia, and each function is in that one region. We don't have functions split across different regions. So we have forecasting and various aggregate planning groups in the U.S. and then a lot of the other planning teams, the demand, some of the business planning, all in the Asia group. And then that's where most of the team is.
Well, clearly you've got a multi-enterprise nature to your supply network.
Yeah.
So walk us through, or let's just drill down a little bit into how you manage that.
Well, I think the multi-enterprise is mainly the multi-customers and multi-suppliers is our challenge, because we've narrowed down our supply base, so we don't have a lot of suppliers anymore. So that's one of the ways that we tend to have a very deep relationship with each of our suppliers. So we manage them very tightly, almost like they're one of ours. So we have very deep integrations with them. And we have to because of the nature and expense of our products. On the customer side, we have a lot of customers. We have about 15,000, and then maybe about 500 we treat directly. And so we also manage those guys really tightly. We usually work with them to help them come up with what decisions they should be making on helping them with their forecasting as well. So that's what we do. Is we spend a lot of time managing and coordinating our suppliers and our customers.
You are focusing though more on speed rather than optimization there at Xilinx. Now, why is that?
Well, so speed is. There's a bunch of challenges with just running optimization. I think the reason we more focus on speed is that we know data is changing. It's uncertain and it's changing every day. So we want to be able to make quick decisions. We also want to understand if we can run things quickly, the sensitivity of the problem. What are the key parameters that really affect the decision? So that's one of the obvious things. I also think that the focus on speed as opposed to optimization, gets us focused on problems other than the planning problem. It gets us focused on the data management problem, which is where we make mistakes. It gets us focused on solving some of the engineering problems that can make our planning problem easier. So definitely, we think optimization tends to be, even though I was trained in optimization and I spent a lot of time in that. If you misuse it, it can cause distractions and not have you really solve what the real problems are. So.
At the same time, visibility and transparency clearly is important there at Xilinx or in any company in terms of spotting, identifying, and staying on top of potential issues. So walk us through just how that works there at your company.
Well, I mean, we have really deep integration with our suppliers and our customers, so we're getting signals all the time. And so, it's less about getting the signals anymore, it's about how you process them. And that it goes back to that question we just talked about the speed of being able to process those signals quickly. And when I talk about transparency, I talk about it in terms of the algorithm. So you understand when you have a signal, exactly how that will affect your output decision. And so that's one of the reasons that we like about the Kinaxis heuristics. They may not be optimal, but they're usually transparent and they're easy to understand how, when you have an input change, how the output should change.
Well, speaking of Kinaxis, let's talk about the tool there, about rapid response, how that's been factored into your supply chain landscape, if you will. And then let's talk about the value that you have derived from use of that. How would you characterize that?
Well, I mean, we use it for everything. It is the tool that everybody uses across all of planning, right? I mean, it's the thing they go into and work with all day. So it's used everywhere in the organization. People wouldn't think to not have it anymore. It's just like having a computer or Excel or something. It's become like that. In terms of the value, I mean, it's people love to use it, but I mean, the value is that it helps us solve our fundamental problem, which is a semiconductor problem, but related to performance binning. So it does have very big value on that. If we aren't able to solve that, and we couldn't solve it with just having a simple MRP and a bunch of even very smart planners, if we weren't able to do that, it'd be tens of millions of dollars in excess and obsolete inventory that would happen every quarter. So it has major value for us, but it's used thoroughly throughout the organization.
I want to turn to the implementation of rapid response. I guess the question is, how did you get your team on board for the transformation that came about when you implemented this tool?
Yeah, I mean, that's an important question. And this is not my first rodeo with planning tools, and they're different implementation beasts than other tools. So we did a couple things. One is, before we even selected the tool, we had a set of key users from each of the functions in supply chain that actually did a 2-week pilot and to test the usability of the system. And obviously they all came back with rapid response is the right tool versus some of the other tools that we were looking at. So one of the first things is to get people involved early, and that's the way we did it. Now, in terms of when we driving the implementation, we did two things. One is all my directors had responsibility for success of the implementation of the tool. They all wanted the tool, but what typically happens in these implementations is that when the rubber meets the road, there's always somebody pointing fingers like IT didn't get this done in time. So their goal was, you guys are responsible. There's no IT didn't get it done in time. It's your job to get it done, and you're successful when you get it done, no excuses. And so that worked really well. They were completely bought into that. And then what we did as well is we had super users from each of the teams that worked with our IT and business analyst group. And they really drove everything from the very beginning, not just later on in testing. They drove a lot of this development. And they used that, they would then use that, they transitioned into training for us. So a couple of big things, really, just getting people buy in early, getting the director level accountable for success, and then having subject matter experts that could help really drive it from the very beginning of the project.
So upper management buy-in and subject matter expertise, clearly I would imagine are among the takeaways that somebody needs to be aware of.
Yeah.
If somebody comes to you and says, I'm looking to implement this thing,
yeah.
So walk me through then the takeaways, things that I should be aware of, pitfalls perhaps, et cetera, based on your experience. Other than those two items, what else should they be aware of?
Well, I mean, I think one of the things they should do is make sure they fix spend some time working on their supply chain infrastructure systems, like their BOM systems and their WIP tracking systems. And if you don't get that straight, it makes it much more difficult to implement this system. Other takeaways I'd say is really know why you bought the system, and don't let people put requirements on the system that serve their needs but don't serve that fundamental core purpose. And that's probably the most difficult thing to do through an implementation, is everybody wants their needs met, not the needs of the company met. So you have to be really clear about why you're buying the tool ahead of time.
Mm-hmm. Final question, which would you say is more important, precision or accuracy?
Well, I'm very passionate about this one. Accuracy is much more important than precision. I say a lot of times when we're precise, we're precisely inaccurate. And we simplify a problem that we can solve very precisely instead of looking for the bigger problem and trying to solve it in a robust manner. So.
Great overview into a very difficult situation, supply chain complexity. Alex, I know you're busy here at the conference, but you found time to speak with us. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
It's Alex Brown, Xilinx, and walking us through supply chain complexity and how you might tame it. Thanks for watching.